As I stood in the doorway of our once happy home, I could feel the weight of brokenness crushing my spirit. The atmosphere was tense, and it appeared as though the walls still held the echoes of shattered dreams. I grew up in this home. From every nook and cranny there was music and laughter. However, it was now a scene of conflict, a site of despair, and a place of unfulfilled promises. I remember the days when my father would take me on his shoulders, his laughter reverberating through the air. He was my hero, my protector. But addiction had a way of changing people, twisting them into unrecognizable versions of themselves, causing a storm that split my family apart. It began innocently enough, an escape from the pressures of life, a temporary relief from the weight of the world. But soon, it consumed him entirely. It had stolen away the man that I once knew, and forever our lives were altered. Every day was a struggle, a relentless cycle of hope and heartache. As I made my way through the house, I passed photographs that told a different story, a story of love, happiness, and togetherness. It was painful to see those images, reminders of a time when we were a family united. Now the bonds that held us together were frayed and fragile, threatening to snap at any moment. I passed the living room as I made my way down the hallway. On the couch was my mother reading the paper. She greeted me with, "Hello, love," and I greeted her back. Her voice was brittle and weak, like broken bridges in the wind. My mother, once a pillar of strength, had become a mere shell of herself. Her eyes, once filled with warmth, were now clouded with exhaustion and sorrow. She had fought tirelessly to save our family, attending support groups and seeking help. But addiction is a relentless beast. It takes hold and refuses to let go, leaving destruction in its wake. I could see my brother as I entered the kitchen. The family's youngest member, Michael, had wounds from a struggle that only a father and son could really comprehend. At just 16 years old, he had seen and experienced more pain than anyone his age should. He had become withdrawn, his laughter replaced by silence. It pained me to see him suffering, to witness the innocence of his youth slipping away. I inquired about his schoolwork and whether he had made any new friends. His responses were short and impersonal to the ear. To get to the basement, I went downstairs. The television was on, and the speakers were producing a familiar sound. It was Starfighter, my father's favorite program. Every Friday during my childhood, my family and I watched this TV show together. My father was dozing off on the sofa, which was one of his favorite places in the house. The aroma of cheap beer and expensive cigars filled the room. I didn't want to wake him, so I just kissed his head and told him I loved him. Later that evening, I drove home with a heavy heart. It was easy to observe the signs of my family's decline. Darkness had descended upon us without a single source of light. But I wouldn't let addiction define us. I wouldn't allow it to trample on our goals and dreams. As the oldest, I thought it was my duty to defend my family and serve as their guiding light in the dark. I was determined to mend the relationships that addiction had damaged, even though I knew it wouldn't be simple and that the path ahead would be littered with challenges and failures. Reading became my life support. The pages told stories that bandaged my soul. I sought solace in the words of Maya Angelou, who once said, "You may encounter many defeats, but you must not be defeated." I clung to those words, holding on to the belief that love could conquer even the deepest wounds. I joined a support group called the Bridge of Hope. It was a collection of families that shared similar stories about battles with addiction. Their statements reflected the hurt I was feeling in my heart. Like a submarine in the ocean, childhood memories started to surface again. For months, I would invite my family as a group and on their own. My mother attended some sessions, but my brother was stubborn. He saw counseling as weak and unmanly, beneath him on all levels. Eventually, he came around, with the pain of addiction becoming something he could no longer tolerate. Addiction had stolen his hero, terrorized his childhood, and held back any hopes of him having a prosperous future. My father was the hardest to convince that we needed a change. His physique had become a reflection of the years of neglect. Addiction had crafted a web of lies that trapped my father's heart. He felt ashamed for hurting his family, allowing a substance to control his life, shrinking him as a father and weakening him as a man. I called my mother on the way home one afternoon after completing a few errands to let her know I was going to drop by and talk. I asked if my father and brother were also present. She responded, "Yes, everyone is here and I'm finishing dinner." My pulse was racing when I came up to my family's home, so I waited outside for a while in the car before stepping out. After weeks of debating the matter, I decided today would be the day I finally muster the guts to ask my family to join the Bridge of Hope. I took a deep breath and entered the house. The familiar scent of my mother's homemade lasagna wafted through the air, a stark contrast to the heavy tension that had permeated my home for years. My parents sat at the dining table, their eyes avoiding each other's as they chewed their food in silence. My younger brother, Michael, was hunched over his phone, lost in the world of social media and video games. "Hey everyone," I began, my voice quivering from fear. "I've been thinking a lot lately, and I believe it's time we do something about our family's struggle with addiction." A collective silence hung in the room, broken only by the hum of the refrigerator. My mother looked down at the table, her eyes welling up with tears. My father shifted uncomfortably in his chair, while my brother paused his game with his eyebrows furrowed. I continued, "I love all of you and I can't stand to see addiction tear our family apart anymore. It's taken a toll on each of us in different ways, and I think we should seek help." The more time passed, the more we realized how strong our family bond really was. We attended many counseling sessions and joined support groups with others who had dealt with related problems. We learned that we couldn't hold ourselves accountable for my father's actions, that addiction was a disease, and that we couldn't take responsibility for his choices. We started to recover gradually. We learned the value of forgiving ourselves as well as my father. We discovered how to let go of the guilt and shame that addiction had forced upon us. We also discovered a surprising resilience, a strength we had no idea we possessed. We no longer live in a house filled with fear and despair. The laughing has returned, and the echoes of redemption and hope are booming off the walls. We stand by him, with unwavering in our support as my father makes his way down the difficult path to recovery, a journey that will last his entire life. The bonds that were once broken are now stronger than ever. We have learned to cherish the moments of joy, to savor the love that remains. We know that addiction will always be a part of our story, but it no longer defines us. As I look back on the journey we've taken, I realize that sometimes the greatest battles are fought within our own hearts and homes. Addiction tore our family apart, but it also brought us together in a way we never thought possible. We learned the true meaning of resilience, compassion, and unconditional love. I hope that by sharing our story, others who are facing similar struggles will find solace and strength. Addiction is a formidable opponent, but we are living proof that with love, support, and the unwavering determination to heal, broken bonds can be mended. Our family will forever bear the scars of addiction, but we refuse to let it define us. We are survivors, fighters, and believers in the power of love to overcome even the darkest of times. And as I stand in the doorway of our once broken home, I am filled with a sense of gratitude. Gratitude for the journey that has shaped us, for the lessons learned, and for the bonds that have been restored. Our story is one of hope, a testament to the strength of the human spirit and the resilience of the human heart. We may have been torn apart by addiction, but we are stronger now than ever before. And together, we will continue to rewrite our story, one day at a time.